While last week's circuit of Las Vegas and this week's track of Charlotte may be the same length, they are very two different circuits. This is one of the spiritual homes of NASCAR, and we are proud to bring you the World Series League's NASCAR Series EU as we come home to Charlotte, as it were. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the booth by Jack Oliphant with David Christie directing and producing behind the scenes. And Jack, this is going to be a tricky circuit, a little bit tighter than Las Vegas. It requires a little bit more braking, a little bit more lifting off, and a sort of different style of racing altogether.
Yeah, I think we were estimating, weren't we? We were having a chat before we went live how many pace car periods we might have. Now, I'm not going to say the numbers that we guessed because we might jinx it, but it's going to be a little bit more tricky, as I think the sort of gist of what we were doing, isn't it? And what we were predicting for these drivers. But they've learned a couple of weeks now. Obviously, the EU is a little bit probably novice compared to, say, the US broadcast of this a little later on. But that still doesn't mean that it's, they're exactly novices. So hopefully they'll have put together a few lessons they've learned over the past couple of weeks. And they'll come into Charlotte with their heads held high and full of confidence.
Indeed. As we take a look at those track conditions, it's pretty perfect for racing. Obviously, a night race here, 24 degrees Celsius. That's about 75 degrees Fahrenheit out in the ambient air, about 77 degrees Fahrenheit on track. So that means it's going to be a little bit cool for these drivers. It may take them a minute to get the tires up to speed, but we're not going to have to worry about a lot of tire runoff. But we do quickly want to run you through the championship order here because we are in the midst of that championship. Sean Campbell with that win last week, able to have a 5-point lead over Brony Menard. Saoirse Fitzpatrick sitting back there in third. She is in a tie with Kevin Stam, but very close at the top. Jonathan Havey, Harry Willis, Dion Neuveld, Patrick Hetrick, Dean Timms, and Ben Smith rounding out your top 10. And Jack, I mean, looking at that top 10, this championship is still wide open. It's anybody's game.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we like to see, really, isn't it? Because although we have had two different tracks, we've had two rounds. We've had two very different rounds that have sort of enabled a couple of other people to sort of be at the front for Daytona, obviously a super speedway, and then obviously maybe a few different people to be at the front for Las Vegas. And the beauty of NASCAR is that anybody can be at the front at any given time, which is what we're really excited about here with Charlotte. And obviously Charlotte, a lot of these drivers, probably because we're in the EU, probably a little bit more, not oval-based, I suppose, in terms of their iRacing experience. Charlotte would have been one of the circuits that they're quite used to seeing, or one of the logos anyway, but obviously the road circuit. So, it's going to be quite interesting to see how they adapt to this oval, and then see how the top 10 changes just a touch, because, as you say, it's everyone's game at the moment. We're into lone qualifying at the moment, and as you saw in Vegas and at Daytona and the pre-event at Daytona, qualifying doesn't really mean much, does it, DJ? But it's still a half-decent idea to get to know where our drivers are. And Charlotte's a bit more of a difficult circuit, like you said, a little bit more driver input required in terms of lift-off and braking and X, Y, Z. It goes to show who's maybe practiced a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And practice here, as in any of these NASCAR events, always very tricky because it is one thing to be riding around here in solo qualifying. As you see, it's another thing entirely to be running around here in traffic. And I anticipate probably 2 lanes being built up over the course of the race. A little bit of too wide, but definitely some tough driving. Gonna be interesting to see who gets on past, who's able to carry momentum on that high side, who's able to carry down low. As we look right now, though, on those solo qualifying times, still waiting for about 5 drivers to put down times. Last week's winner, Sean Campbell, putting in his first lap there to go into 17th. Your top 5 right now, Matthew Bruno, Harry Wills, Kevin Stam, Albin Kellberg, and Mark Redford.
Yeah, so a few drivers to be keeping an eye out, as you said already. Sean Campbell, certainly one of them. Saoirse Fitzpatrick. I'll just have to double check how we're saying that actually again, because they did correct me last time out, and I've completely lost my little note that actually breaks it down phonetically. But currently 21st position is Fitzpatrick, so very uncharacteristically low. Not ideal. Rich Matthews just puts in their time and goes into 22nd again, but there's plenty of opportunity for drivers to work through the field, isn't there, DJ? Which is what we've seen the past couple of weeks, especially with lucky dogs and pace cars and anything else that this race will throw at them, which I'm sure will be plenty, there's always an opportunity to sort of make the best of a bad situation.
Exactly. And, the only real concern that I would have of starting in that middle to back of the pack is that Charlotte is a half mile here. It's not the widest of circuits. It's not exactly narrow necessarily. We're not dealing with a Martinsville style circuit in that regard, but you can still get collected in an incident relatively easily if you're running around in the middle or back of the pack. So being up towards the front can certainly help you. Still waiting for a couple of drivers to set those times down. Judith Cooper, Marcellus Bruning, and Mark Cadmore right now. Potentially just waiting a little bit for temperatures to fall a little bit, maybe rise a little bit more, waiting out those things, or they could just be wanting to start from the back, wanting to avoid any of the scuffling that we can sometimes see in that mid-pack as it goes along. But Matthew Bruno continuing to top the charts with a 30-second flat lap.
Yeah, very, very quick for Matthew Bruno there. And Harry Wills, again, not far off, but equally, in terms of NASCAR, a country mile off. If you saw a 10th between first and second in any other race series or any other formula, you'd be quite excited and thinking that's going to be a very, very close battle. But in NASCAR, it's a country mile, isn't it? It's massive. So that is obviously one of the reasons we go lone qualifying, isn't it? Rather than in the pack. Because last time at Las Vegas, I don't know if you remember, DJ, we had everybody out all at the same time. You could use drafting, and it was a bit more race realistic, shall we say, in terms of the close lap times and a bit faster lap times than we probably would have expected if they were on their lonesome. But here, on their lonesome, it's all about who can switch the car on quickest. It's all about who can sort of get into their rhythm the fastest as well, because you only get 2 flying laps, I believe it is. So you have to be really on it straight away. And that's exactly what Matthew Bruno's done.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And you can see the gaps there as you were talking about that country mile between Bruno and Wills. But from there on back, very, very tight gaps working their way down. By the way, we will have a 100-lap race out here today. And those laps, they come at you pretty fast with a 30-second lap. So don't be surprised if we stay green for this race to really, really fly by you. But drivers going to have to be careful. They're going to have to execute on that pit cycle, as we always talk about. Very tricky to try to get that right. You don't want to be pitting under green around here, as you will go 1, maybe even 2 laps down.
Yeah, I think I said before that we're not going to necessarily try and jinx it by, admitting how many pace car periods we're going to have. But equally, there's a pretty strong chance they won't have to pit under green flag conditions, isn't there? If you hold out long enough, there's probably going to be an opportunity where you can pit in the safety car. So they're going to have to try and just hold on to their tyres for as long as possible, potentially. Hold on to their fuel. Fuel conserving is a thing in NASCAR as well, especially in iRacing, especially when you're in the pack. And as I said, just take advantage of the closest pace car period or caution period to when you think you should be pitting is effectively it, isn't it? And we might see quite a few splash and dashes here and there as well.
Indeed. And the other thing to remember is drivers will have a fast repair around here tonight. So think of that as a little bit of a spare car, that if you get some pretty heavy damage and you're able to bring it on back down pit lane, that you'll be able to jump into a spare car, come out just as new. And that can be very, very crucial, and also can be a little bit strategic as we talk about drivers, maybe getting a little bit of damage to the front end of the car and not wanting to use that fast repair, even though it may hurt them a little bit. But we also want to thank, before we get into the race, our 2 sponsors, SIM3D and Go for the Grid. SIM3D obviously manufactures some great sim racing products, and Go for the Gap, rather, which is an absolutely fantastic Etsy store with some really, really wonderful motorsports themed arts that I check almost every day. New stuff getting added in there. Just beautiful, beautiful work.
Yeah, it's great stuff, isn't it, by Cami, who produces the stuff for Go for the Gap. And as I said, I'm sure all the links are in the descriptions, or even if just hit it up on Google or Etsy or anything like that, go and make sure you have a look at them. And obviously Sim3D have provided a fantastic variation of prizes that we have for the championship. I think the pedal vibrators, I haven't got the official notes in front of me, so I think it's called the Rumble Kit. The pedal Rumble Kit is one of the things that's going to the first place in the championship, and they've got a button box and everything for the second place and an LED strip. It's pretty awesome stuff. This is a championship you want to be winning.
It is indeed, but now it is time for this championship to get into its third round. It's going to be Matthew Bruno, as we said, lining up in pole position with Harry Wills to his outside. Kevin Stam and Albin Kjellberg will line up third and fourth. Mark Redford will be fifth, followed by Stuart Reynolds with Matthew Heatrick and Brandon Hughes behind them. Brody Menard lines up in ninth, followed by Ben Smith, Daniel Valk, and Dean Timms behind them. Lining up in 13th place, it's Isaac Rain and Gerard Wareham with George Hill and Rich Matthews. Jeff Browning's going to be 17th with Sean Campbell to his outside with Loris Mueller and Dion Noonveld in 19th and 20th. Those are two drivers that we saw very, very good last week. We'll have to see where they go. Jonathan Havey's going to be 21st. Saoirse Fitzpatrick will be 22nd with Mark Cadmore, Marcellus Bruning, and Judith Cooper bringing up the back of the field.
Strong looking good there, isn't it, DJ? I'm excited for this one here at Charlotte. We do always have a couple too many retirees, shall we say, and people obviously you fear might not come back a little later in the season, but everybody keeps coming back. They're clearly enjoying their oval racing here with World Series League, so fingers crossed this one goes clean for everybody else as it did for the leaders last week.
Indeed. Is there you see one of the signatures of this Charlotte Motor Speedway, that sort of staggered starting formation. I always love seeing the cars lined up there like that, and Matthew Bruno bringing the field around here. Everybody taking off on one of, I believe, two pace laps that we will get around this historic speedway. Obviously one of the older and more storied speedways on the NASCAR calendar.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know a lot more about it than I do, DJ, being from that side of the pond. But as I said, it's one of those circuits that when you start in iRacing, you do often, especially in the MX-5s or anything like that, the track racing that I did especially, you always do end up going to Charlotte at some point. But of course, it's the inner sort of road circuit that you end up driving on, not necessarily the sort of fast oval loop. So I'm interested to see how the oval reacts. I can't quite remember it really, apart from the fact that it's tight. It's quite highly banked and everything. I've only ever commentated on one of the NASCAR series, and I remember it being very entertaining. So I'm fingers crossed this one gives us the same result as I experienced last time.
I certainly think it will be, as Charlotte is always one of my favorite places to watch racing unfold, whether you are on the road course or on this oval layout. Drivers starting to stack up double wide here as they get ready to come to the green. Bruno and Wills up front. Pace car pulling off to the inside as we look for Barney the Flagman to wave that green flag, waiting on it here, and there goes the green. We are racing in Charlotte. Matthew Bruno with a massive jump on the field. He's going to try to bring Kevin Stam along with him. Stam down to the inside of Harry Wills as they dive down into turn one for the first time. Little bit of contact there between himself and Albin Kjellberg, but it looks like Bruno has gotten the jump that he wanted.
Yeah, Bruno looking like a camera car in a movie at the moment, isn't it, from that rear view? So far in front of the others. Did a fantastic job. Harry Wills leading, well, they say leading. He's leading the rest of the pack, shall we say. He's in second place, but Kevin Stam going very wide on the higher line, just losing out a couple of tenths. If you go back to, I think that's 7th and 8th position, Stuart Reynolds and Matthew Heatrick, 6th and 7th even, they are going side by side. In fact, they're going side by side for third place as well, as Albin Kjellberg is up the inside of Kevin Stam. And I think he's just about had to pull out of that movement. I think there may have been a little bit of a drift just behind this battle that we're seeing here between Brony Maynard and Daniel Valk. I thought a pace car was coming out, actually, through the corner of my eye, but luckily nothing has happened.
Indeed, nothing has happened as we run almost 2-3 wide. Drivers trying to find that grip around this circuit. George Hill moving his way up forward. This battle that you keep your eye on right now, that is the number 3 of Ben Smith, George Hill, and Isaac Rain, all duking it out down in the mid-pack right now, trying to push their way forward a little bit. That is that number 3 of Ben Smith working on the high side. We said that could be a thing, and there's the 21. We've got our first caution of the day. Excuse me, that's the 22 in trouble. That is Albin Kjellberg.
Yeah, Kjellberg then... Well, we didn't quite see what happened to him in the entirety, but all we know is we joined him, I think, when he was sideways and then ended up obviously tagging a few of the drivers. A few of the drivers I think he ended up tagging were Gerard Wareham, Jeff Browning, Jonathan Havey, Marcellus Bruning. No, Marcellus Bruning hasn't actually taken the start. So, yeah, Kjellberg made contact. Browning, I think Fitzpatrick's in there as well, and Wareham. Let's have a look at it now.
Yeah, so this is the 22 machine, just gets a little bit squirrely coming down into turn 1 and 2, catches it, and then catches that apron. That was a solo car incident there by the 22. I'm not sure, that was Ben Smith and the 3 that tagged him, and that's really what set off that whole secondary incident.
Bit of a shame that, really, because Kjellberg actually did really well to catch it 2 or 3 times, and then unfortunately just touched that apron, and then it was basically goodbye to the handling of the car and the rear end, and obviously we saw a few other people tagging it. If nobody tagged him, he probably would have just stayed still on the circuit. I don't think he would have cascaded into a wall or anything and just got back going, but this is Sisha's Fitzpatrick's view of things, and there's a roll cage in the way of our view, but yeah, just tags it there, and that's really unfortunate. It sends them into 3 other cars as well, and not ideal for Sisha.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard break for them, and a couple of drivers here that are going to be using their fast repairs, I think, as we see Timms, Campbell, Hill, Fitzpatrick, Kjellberg, Wareham, Browning, Havey, and Smith all down pit lane. There you can see them starting to fire off. I wouldn't be surprised if we see those fast repairs, those spare cars being used. As you said, Marcellus Bruning and Judith Cooper both did not start this race, but up front it continues to be Matthew Bruno, and I've got to say that jump the number 24 was able to get on the field, absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, it was stunning, wasn't it? And in rounds gone past, especially at Daytona, you would see that sort of jump and then it would get eaten away within half a lap. But Matthew Bruno managed to hold on to it right up until we saw that caution period. In fact, he held on to it for so long, and it was so significant that we ended up taking the cameras away from him. And I think that's the biggest compliment if you are a leader of a race, that you're so far in the lead, you're so boring that you don't actually get the cameras on you. If the cameras aren't on you, no news is good news in terms of a race leader, isn't it? They're leading away from it. So, yeah, if he can do that again, I'll be very impressed. Harry Wills needs to be a little bit more switched on, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Is Wills got a little bit caught out by it, and that's one of the problems here that you really can run into if you're starting on the outside, and it's one of the sort of strange things in iRacing. If you're not running necessarily on a VR setup, is that you're going to have to be looking to your left side constantly, and just that look to the left is a little bit of a millisecond of a delay, and that can cause you to miss out on that start, and that's exactly what happened to Wills. We talked about Kevin Stam trying to get that jump up to the inside. Thankfully, Wills able to hold him off for that moment. But yeah, Bruno definitely had the run. Looks like the iRacing pace car lights are off, so we will get back to green again. And now it's going to be up to the 95 of Harry Wills to see if he can keep on to a better start here.
Yeah, the advantage, isn't it, of obviously a short lap, only 30 seconds when we're doing proper race pace, but when the pace car out, it's still a short-ish pace car lap as well, so we obviously only ever get 3 laps, pretty much maximum and minimum, actually, under pace cars. So a minute and a half laps, that means we're only under pace car for a short amount of time, which is what we like to see, because we like to be in full race pace, don't we? And look at Matthew Bruno. Not that the pace car is actually driven by a human being, but he's trying to put him under an enormous amount of pressure.
Yeah, very much stacking up behind that pace car. And you see a lot of different approaches there, whether it's backing the field off a little bit, bringing it up. But now as we get back to green here, remember that this will be on the leader's discretion. And so that is going to change up the running here a little bit as we ride out of the tailpipe there of Matthew Bruno's machine, waiting for him to get on the green, and there he goes. We are back racing again, and it's another brilliant start for Matthew Bruno. This time Harry Wills a little bit cagier. He immediately moves over to the left to block off Kevin Stam to try to prevent that big run.
Yeah, Bruno again, just to the T, wasn't it? Fantastic reactions, brilliant acceleration, got the traction down on the car. Obviously the tyres, I wouldn't say have cooled off properly, but it's just absolutely nailed it and has managed to get himself pretty much a free lap without Harry Wills really being attached onto the backside of him. Harry will end up gaining a little bit. I don't think Bruno's going to have it all his own way, but certainly that qualifying pace has turned into race pace here for Matthew in the 24 machine. I'm excited to see how he can deal with an extended green flag running, which hopefully we'll see. Daniel Valk is the driver that we're currently on board with. Now I think he's got Brody Maynard on the outside of him, or it might be Isaac Crane. It's Isaac Crane actually on the outside of him. But these two go too wide. Isaac's just got his nose ahead though.
Yes, he does. And there you can see the 34 just searching for a little bit more grip, trying to move that car up the track, seeing if that high momentum line will help him out. Doesn't look like it is. Now it looks like Brandon Hughes behind them. We've got a little bit more side-by-side in the back. That's Dion Newell and Jonathan Havey really going at it there. And it looks like Newell's going to be able to have that position for now. But they've got to watch out a little bit as the 59 behind them of Jeff Browning is certainly going to be interested in any of that squabbling. They run nose to tail, jumping back around here. This is Harry Wills. He's been able to close that gap back down. It's only about 0.2 of a second in between himself and the leader, Kevin Stam, being pulled along nicely.
Yeah, we're 10th into this race, and Matthew Bruno has led all of it so far without too much of a challenge, obviously assisted by a pace car period, but Wills is finally maybe getting his car up to temperature, maybe getting a little bit more confidence as well, starting to use that slipstream and adjust, because like you said, DJ, you've done a lot more oval racing than I have. But when you actually... Oh, who's that coming into the pits? That's Gerard Wareham. Maybe, unfortunately, got a little bit of damage on there. Maybe, I think Gerard was actually caught in the incident early on. That's why he hasn't got a back end. Maybe just didn't use the fast repair and found himself dropping like a stone. But to carry on my point, like you said in qualifying, it's not just about one lap pace on your own with no one around you, is it? And that's what makes racing very, very different to practice in terms of NASCAR, because when you're in a race and you've got...
Oh, we've got a yellow! We have got a yellow in the back! Multiple cars in... Oh, it looks like Daniel Valk involved in that one. Multiple drivers involved. There was a little bit of contact there, I think. Valk got spun around, and that's what started everything cascading through turn 3 and 4.
I'm glad you had eyes on that, or you had were aware of that, because I had absolutely no idea what was going on at that point. Let's have a watch of a replay.
Yeah, so here it is. That's Valk, and the 34 drifts up a little bit. I thought that's the 97, I believe, to his outside. Excuse me, the 92 and the 63. As they go into the corner, Valk tries to have a little bit of a look down to the inside there. And there, not quite yet was the contact. I think we are one lap behind on this, but you can see that battle starting to build itself out a little bit as the 92, that was Brody Maynard that was going to be involved in that, continuing to go side by side. Here it comes. This is where everything fires off, side by side, down the backstretch. Little bit of a tip there to the 92 of Brody Maynard. Valk gets caught up in it. Big contact, and drivers behind just caught out.
Yeah, Isaac Rain was, I think, the other driver, the 63, that was involved with that incident then. And as you said, Daniel Valk just didn't really do anything wrong. Neither did Maynard, I didn't really think. But ended up, obviously, there's a big crash. So very unfortunate. But Valk managed to come into the pits to try and get his car repaired as quickly as possible. One driver who you might have recognised in the background of that scuffle, but actually made it through all clean, was the number 26, which was actually Sean Campbell. Remember, he won last week, and didn't he, DJ? And although he's uncharacteristically far back, he's doing basically what we predicted, in the fact that even if you have a bad qualifying, you can still make your way through the order as long as you're patient and avoid the incidents.
Indeed, and that incident avoidance is a very tricky thing. It is definitely something that you have to try to be able to do, and it's a real art, especially in these next-gen NASCARs. A lot heavier, a lot harder to break, and so you've really got to be careful. Watching here as Loris Muller coming up and down pit lane. I believe that may be pulling Muller. Is he going to be able to get out in time? Yes, he is, so he's going to be able to stay on the lead lap. The only driver here that looks to be a lap or two down is going to be Gerard Wareham at this point.
Yeah, now I'm not sure if the lucky dog will allow Gerard Wareham to go back past, but he seems to be going slower than the other cars, not going faster than them. So clearly he's dropping to the back of the entire train, maybe. I'm not sure how they're sorting themselves out here, to be honest, but it's a bit of an odd one. Anyway, Isaac Rain, there is the number 63. Obviously, he was the driver that was involved with Maynard that brought out the caution period. He's managed to get out and onto the circuit. He's currently in 20th place as Loris Muller actually comes back into the pits, and so does Jonathan Havey. Any idea on this one, DJ, to clear this up for us?
I think what this is they may have already used their spare car, and they're just coming in to try to get some more work done. That's a very, very tentative approach there for Loris Muller as he comes in. Looks like he's taking right side tires. I don't know if he's going to take lefts there or not, so a little bit of an alternate approach there. Sometimes you see that happening. The drivers will take only those outside tires to try to just get them a little bit more grip and save some time in pit lane. But I think here for Muller, he is just trying to get as much damage repaired on that car as possible without going a lap down.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't really want to see him going a lap down. If he can help it, he's going to have to be quick. I think he's going to be able to get out nice and safe. I think even Jonathan Havey, actually, even if he does obey the pit limiter, is going to be able to get out, but it's going to be a bit tighter. There is the 43, Jonathan Havey. He just crossed the line, and I think he'll be good to go to catch up to the back of these pace cars now. I think we might see the pace car with its lights off now. I could be wrong, but it looks like everybody's about to queue up 2 by 2. So hopefully we'll go racing at the end of this lap. It's been a bit interrupted at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, indeed it has, but Bruno here bringing the field back around. Those lights are indeed off on the pace car, so back to racing here again. We have not had a change for those top three at all. It continues to be Bruno, Wills, and Stam. Redford up a position, Heatrick up 2, Reynolds stationary. Obviously the biggest losers on the day looking to be Albin Kjellberg, remember, who was involved in that early incident, that solo spin that brought out the first caution. Brody Menard also down 7 on the day. Daniel Valk and Isaac Rain both down 8 and 9 on the day respectively. So some tough running there, but we're only 15 laps down in this race. There was plenty of time to be made up here, and just I think these drivers need to exert a little bit of patience. That was a little bit of an aggressive way to go, but as we've seen before, everything will start to settle in here, and we'll get some green flag running soon, so don't you worry. But right now, it is leading around with Matthew Bruno. Once again, he is bringing the field to green, waiting for that green flag to fly in the 24 to see if he can get another great jump. And there he goes. It is another good jump for him, catching out Matthew Bruno. Kerry Wills, rather. Wills tried to cut down on Kevin Stam, but not really able to get it done. Stam looks very, very good off of those restarts.
He does indeed. Yeah, he seems to be putting Wills under an enormous amount of pressure, although again, looking a little bit here, there, and everywhere in terms of the line that he wants to pick. I've noticed that out of all the top 5, Stam seems to be the one that's happy to experiment on the high line, on the low line, and pretty much every other line to try and get a good run. Now they're going 3 wide. That's going to cause a caution period, is it not? Rich Matthews and a few other drivers involved there. We'll try and figure out who it is over even a crash actually crashing into them. Crashception there for the NASCARs here in the EU, and we're under caution period again.
We are indeed, and I have to say, I think that was a little bit over-ambitious there as drivers were trying to go 3 wide down into the quad oval, and that was always going to squeeze together. They almost got it separated out and pointed the right way, but unfortunately just didn't exactly get it the way that they wanted to. We'll go back to check out the replay there. It looks like Kjellberg involved in that one again. There you can see the 46 spinning. I'm also seeing all of that, and then just that sort of plowing into effect, almost looking more like a super speedway wreck rather than a 1.5-miler here.
Yeah, and as you said, I think the problem is, obviously, the old saying is safety car or pace car breeds pace cars, doesn't it? Caution periods breed caution periods, and I think that's pretty much what we're seeing right now. The number 46 was involved in that as well, and that is Dean Timms. Unfortunately, getting involved again, and I think Daniel Valk, that's the second time he's been involved. Rich Matthews here, the number 64 Red Dog, hoping for the lucky dog at some point probably this race, because I believe he is a lap down now. In fact, he might be able to get back out. Daniel Valk, as I said before, this is the second time he's been involved in an incident already. And sometimes, DJ, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it? You just have some bad luck sometimes.
Yeah, you just have a bad day, and that's one of the things about oval racing, as you just got to be ready for that, that sometimes everything just doesn't fall your way, and it can be a little bit tough. We've got a bunch of drivers coming down pit lane here, probably for a little bit of damage repair. That's going to be George Hill, Isaac Rain, Jeff Browning, Jonathan Havey, Loris Muller, Mark Cadmore, Ben Smith, Rich Matthews, Valk, Wareham, and Timms already down pit lane. Looks like Wareham, as you said, I think is going to be trying to get that lucky dog here. Everybody just trying to get a little bit of service done. We're running down here. Only 7 drivers have not been down pit lane quite yet.
Yeah, that's not really the statistic we wanted to be shouting out 19 laps into this race, is it, unfortunately? But Matthew Bruno's done a fantastic job. I think only the top 3 are drivers who haven't yet changed a position, because Bruno hasn't been attacked by Wills. Wills hasn't really been attacked by Stam. It's been a closer contest for the fight for second place, but it's not really been much in the way of conviction, shall we say, in terms of overtakes to being done. Everybody else has really switched around positions. So the top 3 showing why they qualified there. And yeah, we say all this, they'll probably be there for 95 laps or something. And then all of a sudden, all hell will break loose on the 95th lap, and they'll end up coming in 7th place or something stupid like that. Because that is exactly how NASCAR goes, it seems. And that's exactly what all the race endings we've had so far in this series. And to be honest, it's been exactly what's made it very, very entertaining from our perspective.
It has indeed, and let's not forget to point out somebody here who we know quite well, Sean Campbell, your winner from the last round. He started down in 18th position. He is up 10. He is your biggest mover on the day. He is up into 8th right now, so clearly that number 26 car has some mega speed in it, and he has been able to avoid those incidents that we've talked about and do exactly what he needs to do to start to put himself in position to start to challenge here a little bit.
Another driver who I would say has done very well is Seisha Fitzpatrick, up 12 positions, and up 10 positions, coming to the pit stop twice, I believe, which I can't believe. Is actually Sean Campbell up to 8th place. So a couple of drivers really you have to be shouting out, and as you said, a couple of drivers that are really we've been shouting out last week and the last couple of weeks as well. Hopefully, I can't see the lights on the pace car, but everybody isn't going 2x2, which means we must not be on the final lap. There we go, on board with Matthew Bruno. The pace car will turn the lights off over the start-finish line, I'm sure, and we'll get back racing yet again. Big thank you to everybody who's in on the YouTube chat as well, who's watching this, who's getting ready for the US race maybe a little later on as well. We've had some shout-outs for Maynard. Unfortunately, TechSpelt has, predicted that properly. The chat curse, unfortunately, Maynard obviously involved with an incident earlier on. But plenty of people in the YouTube chat. So big thank you to you guys. A big shout out for Maynard as well.
Indeed, is there. The lights go out on the iRacing pace car, so we will get ready to go back to green, ready to get going again. Getting back to green here. We haven't really had that many retirements on the day. Everybody being able to take their spare car and make things work. I think part of the reason we are seeing here so many cautions again is because of the chilly temperatures out on track. Everything just a little bit cooler than you would expect, and drivers now are going to have to try to be getting their way in the best they can.
Yeah, and as you said, it's just a challenge, but people should be up to the rhythm of it now. People probably should know the conditions and the state of their car. Not a lot of drivers have changed their tyres, so realistically, they should have a decent idea of what the crack is with 21 laps into this 100-lap race, obviously. It makes it very easy to work out the percentage of the race done that we've had here. Obviously, we've done 21%. So I'm quite enjoying that. My OCD-ness is quite enjoying that one. But, yeah, I mean, fingers crossed, hopefully everybody's learnt a thing or two as the pace car comes in. Let's see what Matthew Bruno can do again.
Let's see if Bruno can get that jump once again. He gets onto the loud pedal. Better start there from Harry Wills to be able to close in behind him. And he is going to find some side-by-side behind him between Kevin Sam and Mark Redford as they dive down now into turn one. That's going to be the 77 of Redford up on the high line. Think he's going to have to fall back a little bit farther back in the field. Sean Campbell continuing to make moves, moving his way up forward into 6th.
Yeah, Sean Campbell doing really good, but look at that top four breaking away slightly as they start to fight for 5th position, which of course is Reynolds, and then Campbell just hunkered up behind. Bruno got a good start yet again, but Wills, on the 4th time of asking, I believe, wasn't to be tricked again. So he's right there in the thick of it. But at the moment, the top 4, all they need to do is really work together to try and pull away from the rest of the field and hope for some green flag running, because obviously every time there's a pace car is an opportunity for the rest of the field to come up and have a go at them as well. Jonathan Havey, who we saw earlier on in the race come into the pit lane, is out there and making moves as well. He's in 16th place.
Yes, he is driving the car a little bit up. He had to check himself a little bit before he was going to run it out up into the wall off of turn 4. So a good way to go there for him. But Havey trying to gain onto those positions. That's Ben Smith directly ahead of him. You see a driver exiting out of pit lane right now as a couple of those drivers just getting themselves up to speed. That's Daniel Valk doing his best impression of a modified there. Some slow cars out on track. That's the 63 right there. That's Isaac Rain. Not sure why he is so slow necessarily. Oh, Sean Campbell getting very, very loose off of turn 4. He had to catch the car, and that's going to see him drop down a couple of positions.
Yeah, uncharacteristic that from Sean Campbell. We're expecting to see him pretty much perfect as he was last week, but here he is making just a touch of a mistake, and Fitzpatrick looks very interested in getting past, and again, Sean Campbell getting loose, so maybe he's just not feeling it at the moment. Maybe he's taking some tyres on. He hasn't got up to temperature. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he's just a little overdriving the car and can't quite get it under control and get into a rhythm. We'll have to wait and see.
As we take a look here, you can see just how sideways that 26 is getting. And taking a look at the car, there is some damage to the front and rear of that machine. So that could be accounting for some of that, a little bit of slippiness. Up front, I can tell you that Matthew Bruno continues to lead, but Harry Wills starting to close down on him. They are losing Kevin Stam. That gap is expanding to about a second. Ooh, a little bit of side-by-side there in the back. Some very, very close running. That looks to be the 68 machine. That's Fitzpatrick and Muller.
Yeah, Muller on the inside. Lawrence Muller, obviously, we've seen in the pits as well earlier on, but on the inside line, looks like they might just about get this move done. So, although we saw in Las Vegas, the high line, you were able to carry that speed and defend using the high line. Maybe can't quite do that this time round. But here is Harry Wills right onto the back of Matthew Bruno. The fight for the race lead. Now, they've been at about 0.2 of a second, 2.5 of a second for the majority of this green flag running period. But I think, to be honest, DJ, Harry Wills is doing the smart thing here. I don't think he's particularly attacking Bruno. I think he's just they're using each other to get away from Stam as the fourth caution period, comes out with the number 27 of Albin Kjellberg, who, as we said, I think, unfortunately, we saw earlier on involved in an incident. And out here again in the pit lane.
Yeah, indeed. It looks like a solo car incident there. I saw Sean Campbell going a little bit slowly. Let's take a look here at 22. Dives it down into the corner. Oh, that car just let go on him. I think everybody else was able to avoid, but a massive, massive snap of oversteer. Watch this again. The car just absolutely breaks away. He loses grip, and then it suddenly grips back up as he's pointed right upward towards that outside wall.
Yeah, the most painful breakup he'll ever have is the one that the tyres just gave him, unfortunately. And, ends up the front end's just been absolutely ripped off the car, and that's why he's in the pit lane. But the worst thing is, I think Albin has already used his fast repair, which is why he's still in the pit lane and has been for about 1 minute and 20 seconds, which is a bit good. And a few other drivers have been in the pits for a hugely long time as well. Dean Timms in there for 10.5 minutes. Jeff Browning in there for 9.5 minutes. Daniel Valk about 3.5 minutes. So, yeah, a lot of drivers who are now actually coming into the pits as well to probably try and get rid of any last little niggles that they maybe have with the car that can be mopped up before the pace car comes back round.
Yeah, indeed. And I think this is a combination of drivers that are coming down here and maybe some drivers that are thinking about taking a little bit of top off on fuel, maybe getting those new tires on in there to be able to change things up, just alternate the strategy a little bit, as it looks like Jonathan Havey's going to be the first one off of pit lane, looking like Redford, Heatrick, and Campbell will be following him out there. So It is going to be a combination of strategy here that we continue to see play out. Bruno, Wills, Stam, and Reynolds continue to lead right now behind that pace car as we get going here. And we've had 4 cautions as they come around. Interesting to see how these tire cycles are going to play. And I've got to say, for Matthew Bruno, I like the decision to stay out. I think you stay out as long as you can and just try to extend that pit cycle, extend the tire life as much as you can, as it looks like track position is going to be absolutely crucial around here. Looking back further in the field, your big movers right now, Dion Neumveld in 8th place, up 12 on the day. Jonathan Havey up 11 on the day. So those are 2 drivers that are looking very, very good as things stand. Pace car rolling around right now. It still looks like the lights are on, so we will have another lap of caution. And as Jack said earlier on, yes, it is relatively short laps around here, but once we have drivers that are starting to become a lap down, a lap will get added on to this pace lap time, so it will take one more time to go around.
Indeed it will. Yeah, sorry about that, DJ. I just had to run the dog into the other part of the house. It's always exciting working from home, isn't it? I'd much rather be at the real Charlotte, so I can assure you. Matthew Bruno, can he do it again? That's the question. Wills is starting to get a little bit more on edge in terms of reacting to Bruno pulling away off the start line. But Stam, I think, really is a driver that probably needs to take advantage early on. Now we've had a slight extended period of green flag running. We've seen that the top 2 can pull away. So if Stam has any real sort of drive and desire to win this race, I think he needs to make an early impression after the pace car comes in.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. And I think for Wills, the other thing to keep in mind here is he may just be trying to save his stuff a little bit, saving those tires, doing a little bit of tire management as this race goes along, trying to see if he can prolong that life. Bruno maybe driving the wheels off that thing just a little bit, and Wills certainly trying to hold in behind. The driver that I'm very surprised at is Kevin Stam. We saw him drop back to nearly a full second. That is almost out of effective draft range, and he's got to be very careful not to let that grow anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly the sort of reason why he needs to make this early impression, doesn't he? So, fingers crossed, we can have a 4-5-way battle for the race lead, obviously. But what we're seeing here that we haven't seen maybe previously is there is that ability to gap, isn't there? There's the ability for the top 4 to break away, for the top 2 to break away. And we've seen it really quickly. We maybe saw it in Vegas, but it took a couple of laps, maybe took 10 laps of racing before we started to see the proper breakaways. Here, they're pretty much instant. It's as soon as the pace car goes in, we're starting to see massive gaps start to form within about 3 or 4 laps. So, yeah, going to be interesting to see how the rest of the field really attack this. But look who's up there very close. It's the 33 Brandon Hughes. I'm interested to see from the 3rd row on the inside, can they follow the likes of Bruno and Stam as well and make it a bit more of a battle for between the top 5?
Well, let's not also forget about the 6th place car, that number 92. That is the highest driver who has taken tires here. That is Brody Menard. Sure. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he will be able to do, if he can maybe charge his way up forward. But right now, Brody is going to be at the discretion of Matthew Bruno and Barney the Flagman, because the pace car is about ready to pull off into pit lane. There it goes. We are waiting to go back under green here at Charlotte as they cross into the quad oval, into the restart zone, and there it goes. It's another good start for Matthew Bruno. That's one of the better starts I've seen from Kevin Stam. He is going to stick to the inside here as they exit the quad oval and go down into turn 1. Harry Will's going to try to carry some momentum around the high side. He's going to be able to get that move done. Behind them, it's going to be Stam, Hughes, Reynolds, and Menard as everybody fans themselves out. Dion Neumveld going very, very slowly there with some heavy damage to the left-hand side of that machine, but up front, Matthew Bruno pulling away again.
Yeah, Neuveld, I'm not entirely sure what's going on because we don't think we've seen any more contact since the restart, but we don't know that, obviously, and maybe he didn't realise how slow his car would be because he was under pace car for that entire period. Mark Redford getting very close to the wall there behind Jonathan Havey, who's obviously done very well to recover the car up this high up and to be running within the top 10 after being in the pits earlier on. Look how much that Havey's able to pull on Redford just coming out of the corner. That shows you the difference that can be round here at Charlotte. And this is Wills looking up the inside of Matthew Bruno. This is the first time Bruno's come under any real threat. And I believe this is going to be the first time that we've seen the race lead change as Wills really hot on the back left of Bruno's. They come round the corner. How is the inside line going to treat him? Are we going to see a change on the left-hand side on that timetable? No, not quite. Bruno still has his nose ahead.
Bruno still has the nose ahead, trying to work that high line, that high momentum groove. Let's see what happens coming out of the quad oval right now. They enter into it, and there, sweeping ahead, is going to be Matthew Bruno. He has got that move done, but Harry Wills has stamped his intention. He has let it be known that he wants to get back to that lead. Now, thankfully for the both of these leaders here, through all of that, they did not lose too much time to Kevin Stam. Stam continues to fall back to about 9/10 a full second now, and then there is a whole host of cars closing in behind. A lot of drivers running single fire, but we've got another swap for the lead. That is Wills now able to get a nose ahead. Is he going to be able to carry it out, or is Bruno going to be able to keep that high line, that momentum going? They're going to cross the stripe to start lap 37 side by side.
Yeah, that's the first time we've been able to see Harry Wills actually move his name up above of Bruno's, but it's not stayed there for too long. And like you said, it's amazing that these two aren't being held up by each other. Stam is still nowhere to be seen as Wills sends it into the inside yet again. And I think Wills' tyres must be screaming at him. Both of their tyres must be screaming at him. Neither of them have taken any tyres. They haven't been into the pit lane. They haven't done anything like that. As we look a little bit further backwards, this is the fight for the top 10. That's the 77 of Redford. Then Matthews, Fitzpatrick, Havey and Muller all involved. And I believe even the number 3 of Smith in 13th position as well. So loads of drivers still battling it out, getting nice and close, millimetres apart.
Millimeters apart as they dive down into 3 and 4. Noah's Ark here 2 by 2. Saoirse Fitzpatrick able to get a good run down on the low side. Going to bring Loris Muller along with her. Muller gets a little bit squirrely there coming off of turn 4, but able to gather it up back under him. That's going to promote Fitzpatrick up into 9th place. Currently your biggest mover on the day. We've seen a lot of speed there out of that number 7 machine, so good run there for her. A little bit more side by side in the back. That's the number 6 and the 33 as they run around right now, close to the wall, millimeters. That is Brandon Hughes as he tries to see what he can do. This is a battle farther back in the field right now.
Yeah, it looks like Kevin Stam is sort of wanting to take the high line, then the low line. It's almost like a traditional racing line he's trying to take through this pack. But Wills, Harry Wills, look at the gap at the front end, 0.3 of a second. So we've had a change for the race lead, and there we go. Visually, you can see how big a gap that's actually caused. Maybe Bruno's biding time. Maybe Wills was biding time before. We're not sure. It's all a bit of a mind game here at NASCAR, and that's one of the reasons why we love it so much. But the gap between the top 2 and 3rd place, whoever it might be, whether it's Hughes or Stam, now it's Hughes, it might be Reynolds, it might be Redford by the end of this next lap. We're not entirely sure, but it's nearly 3 seconds. It's absolutely massive.
It is indeed, and Kevin Stam there being hung out to dry on the high line. He is going to get powered on by Brandon Hughes and Stuart Reynolds. Hughes now putting his sights squarely ahead, trying to close down that massive gap. Almost a little bit of a bump draft there from Kevin Stam to the back of Stuart Reynolds. They all run high, they get sideways, and he clutches it, but there's still contact, and that's going to be a yellow coming out of 4. It's a big one.
It is a big one, isn't it? I think a few drivers are lucky to avoid it by going down on the apron. Hopefully they move out the way soon so the next 3 don't become involved as well. They should be aware that there's a big incident somewhere, because obviously they'll have been made aware that the caution period has come out. But yeah, that is very unfortunate. We'll have to give a little bit of a roundup of who was involved in that one. But after Harry Wills and Matthew Bruno worked so hard to get that 3-second lead, it will be evaporated within an instant now as the pace cars back out. Who are we looking at here then? It's the 33. We mentioned him a couple of times already. It's Brandon Hughes. Just gets a tag by the 35, which I can't quite see who it is at the moment. But that sort of causes a massive knock-on effect. I think that's Mark Redford getting involved. Saoirse Fitzpatrick as well in the number 7. Maynard, I believe, is the number 92. Loris Muller as well. There's so many sort of big names in there. And a few other drivers coming in hot. Not really expecting to see any cars sideways, maybe blindsided. And it's not gone well for them.
No, it certainly is not. And once again, talking about these new next gens, harder to slow down, harder to get woed down. And that's really what happened right there as drivers all coming together. We've got, I believe, an onboard. This is here with Brody Menard. You can see all of that taking place in front of him. Oh, hit. Oh, don't go to the attenuator. Don't go to the attenuator. Oh, that is not how you want to end a day.
No, that's yeah. I hope he's not in VR. Put it that way, because that would be terrifying, even if it is fake. It's yeah, that is a pretty quick end to the day. A written off car pretty much instantly. That isn't it? Hopefully, I'm not sure if Brody Maynard will have an extra fast repair available to them. I don't think they will. So that's going to be a long trip to the pit lane. Basically, everybody came into the pits, by the way, then as well, which is why you see Ben Smith leading the way, and then Sean Campbell as well is up to second place. But Harry Wills and Matthew Bruno in the rest of the field has slotted out, and they're into fourth and back, basically. So Matthew Bruno, third and back, as Harry Wills was obviously leading this race when the pace car period came out. But interesting that, I would say, DJ, a bit of a shake-up. Obviously, a lot of drivers coming into the pits, but Ben Smith and Sean Campbell, obviously, they came in a bit earlier, took some fuel, took new tyres, fixed all of their cars and everything like that. Interesting to see that they stayed out. That might play really well and to their advantage as well, as they stayed out a little bit longer.
Indeed, and actually looking at Campbell, he came down pit lane, but with a 6.4-second pit stop, I have to believe that he did not take tires, so I think that was a fuel-only stop for the 26, and we've seen that car be a little bit squirrely out on track, so we'll have to see how that plays out for him. Ben Smith obviously staying out, so these two leaders here, they are not going to have fresh tires, but Wills, Bruno, Redford, Stam, all of them behind, taking a fresh set of boots, putting on new rubber for these cars, and this is going to be a battle to see who is going to, what strategy is going to prevail, whether it's going to be tires or no tires.
I was going to say, I don't know. Don't quote me on this. I'm sure people probably will and might correct me in the YouTube chat. And if they do, I hope so, because that gives us more information. But Sean Campbell, obviously been in the pits before. Will he have taken tyres then? Maybe. Because obviously he's been in the pits 4 times now, compared to Harry Wills and Matthew Bruno, who have only been in once. So within those 4 times of coming into the pits, it's not beyond the wit of man to assume that maybe he took at least the outside tyres at some point. So he might not be as old as you're thinking in terms of the rubber that's on their car, which might mean he holds on to this for a little longer than maybe he expects. But what I will say as well is Ben Smith's car looks rather beaten up, DJ. I'm not sure how quick that's going to be in a straight line.
Yeah, there's some definite damage to that front end there. I think some splitter damage in particular, massive damage on the right-hand side there. And so if there is that splitter damage, that means he's going to have a little bit of problem with turn in. I think I'm also maybe seeing a little bit of damage to the left rear potentially as well. But everybody here starting to line up again 2 by 2 as we get ready to end this 5th caution period on the day with a little bit of a shakeup. For the first time, Harry Wills, Matthew Bruno not going to be the ones leading us to green. That 24 machine of Bruno actually getting pipped in the pit stop sequence, and so he is going to be out on that, frankly, undesirable outside line. We have not seen that outside line restart well.
No, we haven't. And it's going to be interesting whether Bruno is just a sort of driver that can lead one of these pace cars, or whether he has the reactions to actually go with the likes of Smith and Wills and Campbell as well off the restart. It's a real test now of a few more of those drivers. We know Wills maybe learned a little bit over the course of the last couple of restarts. Maybe he'll probably react a little bit quicker. We'll have to wait and see. But what can Smith do? Smith looks very eager to get on with this, what I would say, DJ. He keeps sort of pulling the pack a little bit forward. He's not holding anybody up yet and waiting for a big opportunity. Maybe he's just sort of going to take the take the speed up a little bit, and then he's just going to hit the power, which might not be as significant a gain as we've seen Matthew Bruno. But as the restart's about to occur, let's see what happens with Smith in the lead, ahead of his teammates of Harry Wills, and he does get mugged. Harry Wills straight to the inside, Matthew Bruno straight to the outside, Sean Campbell in the middle, but it's the same old 2 leading this race.
Wow, Wow, they passed him like he was standing still. I'm not sure if he missed a gear there or what that was, but oh my goodness. Harry Wills now out into the front behind him. It's going to be Noah's Ark as they go down into 3 and 4. Bruno, Campbell, Stam, Redford trying to sort this out. That's going to be Matthew Bruno carrying on the high side. Kevin Stam trying to make that high line work as well. They go down into the corner. Campbell trying to hold low, but I don't think that's going to be anything for the momentum on the high side. And indeed, there goes Matthew Bruno sweeping down in front of him.
Yeah, so it's Harry Wills who actually got the best start that time, wasn't it? And that's because he got the inside line. Bruno was on the outside and had to do the hard work around the outside of the likes of Sean Campbell and obviously Smith, who's just disappeared. He's down into 14th place and actually in the pits, Ben Smith. So goodness knows why he chose to do that after a pace car period. We did say that his car looked a little bit damaged, but look at this here. He sort of tries to get going, gets a good instinctive start, and then just stops. And maybe he tried to brake check a few people, but you can't do that. He just got bugged.
Yeah, I wonder if there is some engine damage. Obviously, these are front-engine machines, so you can definitely see that little bit of side-by-side starting to develop itself out there. That's Kevin Stam and Sean Campbell. Campbell trying to go around the outside. Careful, boys. You don't want contact there coming off of 4. They're able to touch and keep going. And now here comes the 77 of Mark Redford looking very interested as Sean Campbell gets towed offline a little bit. That's going to be a dive ahead there for Kevin Stam. Campbell now down to the inside of Redford, Campbell to the outside, rather, of Redford as Redford tries to power it off. Both cars looking a little bit squirrely off of 2.
Yeah, Redford really showing intention here. Sean Campbell clearly doesn't have the car underneath him to challenge at the front end this particular week, but you never know what might happen here at Charlotte. It could all get shaken up. It's a big shake-up at the rear end from Campbell, who's really struggling with those rear tyres and I think has damage on that car enough to rock the aerodynamics. However, little aerodynamics are potentially on these cars, enough to hurt him. Put it that way. Seisha Fitzpatrick coming out of the pit lane. Not entirely sure what happened to her, but I don't know what happened here either. But it's a big crash, and that's the number 35 of Stuart Reynolds and the 33 again of Brandon Hughes.
And that was particularly rough. That contact sent not Fitzpatrick, but sent the other machine down into the bus stop chicane that exists on the backstretch here for the Roval configuration. That was a massive kathunk.
It was indeed. Yeah, there was absolutely no denying that one will have hurt. And I'm sure everybody's hoping that he doesn't have a motion rig underneath him. But this is Brandon Hughes, number 33. So keep that in mind. But I think the 35, which is a couple of rows ahead at this point, Stuart Reynolds, is that just getting loose on the exit of the corner and ends up just spearing into the driver who had no opportunity, Brandon Hughes, of getting out of the way at that sort of speed. But again, a couple of drivers just getting hung out, not hung out to dry, but getting caught out on these sort of rear ends breaking off.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really caught him out there as we watch this again. There's the spear into the 33. Ow. Oh, ow. That hurts just watching it.
Yeah, it does actually, doesn't it? It's that one's the sort of one that makes you grimace, sharp intake of breath from everybody watching, and especially the fans. And yeah, just didn't have a chance. I mean, who was that going through on the middle? Was that number 95? One of the teammates? I'm not entirely sure, but either way, yeah, a couple of drivers doing well to avoid the incident, as obviously Stuart Reynolds is coming in to take a pit stop. But this is only the second time Stuart Reynolds has been in the pits. Fingers crossed, they'll still have their fast repair.
Indeed, and we're hearing over the radio right now, Sean Campbell, we had talked about how he was really moving his way up through the field, but we had been talking about some of his squirreliness that we had been seeing, complaining about the handling of the car. So clearly that number 26 has some problems that he is dealing with and attempting to try to get fixed as quickly as possible. We are over the halfway point here at this point, so drivers continuing along here. The field starting to thin itself out a little bit. Mark Cadmore officially classifies out of the race. Alvin Kellberg also out of the race. Seeing a bunch of drivers down on pit lanes for extended stops. I see right now Dean Timms has been down there for about 30 minutes or so, so I've got to think that this will be a long retirement there for him.
Yeah, which obviously is not what we like to see. How many drivers are on the actual lead lap here? 11. So about half, just under half of the drivers currently on the lead lap. Although Jonathan Havey, who is currently on the lead lap, but won't be. Actually, I think he's just come out the pits in time. So we have pretty much bang on the middle amount of drivers on the lead lap. That's 12. Obviously, the caution periods allowed the lucky dog to go through. So maybe George Hill will get waved through now everybody's done their pit stops. He's currently in 13th place, and obviously the first driver who's not on the lead lap. Yeah, no, this is, I mean, it's not what we obviously like to see as a DJ, let's face it. Hopefully, we're only halfway through this race on our 6th caution. At this rate, we'll have spent more time under caution than we will actually racing by the time we get to the end of the race, I believe. So that's not what the drivers signed up for. That's not what we've signed up for. The spectators have tuned in to see. So hopefully they calm it down just a touch. Maybe get 10, 15 laps in just without any sort of big issues, and then maybe start thinking about moves and everything like that. But at this point in the race, you'd start thinking maybe people need to settle in.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's part of what needs to happen here is once you cross over that point, we haven't really had a chance to settle in. Drivers are still a little bit itchy when everything gets going, around all of that, and you just need some time to settle in under some green flag runs. Hopefully this will allow that to happen, because one of the biggest problems we're seeing is that drivers are just having problems coming off of 4 and coming off of 2. Those cars getting squirrely. We talked about it while we were looking at Sean Campbell, for example, that he was just having a little bit of problems getting that car wound up. And I think that is a result of those cooler track temperatures, still only 76 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now. And so we need some more green flag running to get those tires up to temperature and to get everything running smoothly.
Yeah, and so that might be another reason why, a couple of drivers getting caught out. And I believe we've had some contact with Harry Wills, who somehow is simultaneously driving around towards the high line and doing everything that he's doing in 3rd position, whilst talking to us on our broadcaster chat on Discord as well, and sending us screenshots or mobile phone pictures and everything like that as well. So he's clearly using his phone whilst driving, which is a big no-no. But obviously in the virtual world, you can probably get away with it. His tyres were at peak condition on that previous sort of extended run, which is why he was able to get obviously past the likes of Matthew Bruno. He was enjoying his best period of the race. Now it's not going quite his way. Stuart Reynolds, who was on the lead lap, but caused that caution period. I don't know how he was on the lead lap, is now dropped behind all of these drivers, so trying to figure himself out so he's not leading this race, which means Matthew Bruno and Harry Wills are back at the front. And I was wondering how they demoted to 2nd and 3rd, but that's why Stuart Reynolds has seen the error and has come back in.
Indeed, is now control of the field goes to Harry Wills in that number 95, waiting to get into the restart zone here, and the green flag is in the air. We are back racing again. Wills gets a very good jump there in that number 95 machine. He's going to be able to move himself ahead of Bruno. Back for 2nd. It's Redford and Stam going side by side into the corner. Stam down on the low line. Redford up on the high line, but Stam looking like he's hung out to dry. Redford having a whole lot of power.
Yeah, Stam actually touched the apron there, which meant his car got a little bit squirrely, got a little bit nervous, and he had to come off the throttle as Harry Wills, we're looking at from the back of Wills' exhaust right now at Bruno's front end, having a little bit of a dice, having a little bit of a look just to check, is there a gap there? Am I going to throw this one up the inside? No, I'll leave it for now. Loris Muller looking at Matthew Heatrick's car, just swerving straight in front of him over to the inside as well on this restart. In the number 96 is Heatrick. He was the car that actually managed to get through the middle of the previous caution event, shall we call it. Loris Muller in the middle of this pack as well right now. In 7th position, got Isaac Rain behind him, fighting with Rich Matthews and Jonathan Havey for the top 10 positions. In front of Muller, we've got the likes of Heatrick and Sean Campbell and Kevin Stam. And right at the front end of this field, DJ, we've got a fight, finally, between 3 drivers for 1st position.
Indeed we do. That was a good little move there from Redford. Just kind of not even contact, but moving Matthew Bruno out to the side and making him run the high line. Bruno seemed fine with it, though, as now here comes Redford down to the inside, trying to make that move work. Going to the inside of the 24, but the 24 able to carry some good momentum there around the outside. Harry Wills continues to lead. Whoa! Put a paper in between the two, and a lot of squiggliness there for Redford. He has to chase the car down the track, and that's going to allow for Kevin Stam to come on by. He's got to watch out for Heatrick and Campbell coming up behind now.
Yeah, that was a big move. A lot of intention shown by Redford there, but unfortunately, just couldn't quite make it stick. And that was because Matthew Bruno just closed the door, just squeezed the door closed. Maybe there was a NASCAR's whip for Redford to throw it up the inside, but it was not worth going to another caution period for. So Redford drops back to 4th position. The top two will probably try and aim to break away now from the likes of Stam and the rest of the field, as, well, Redford has to do all the hard work over again. And we've seen that Stam is not easy to get past. Here's a replay of the incident.
Yeah, there you can see just getting a little bit loose off of the corner and being very, very thankful there for that paved runoff down to the inside here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, that was not grass there. But we focus back in. This is the battle for P4 right now. That is Redford trying to hold off Matthew Heatrick. Heatrick just poking his nose down to the inside, trying to see if there's something to do, trying to see if there's anything to go. Jumping back in the field here a little bit, I believe that is Saoirse Fitzpatrick, as we've got a little bit of a replay. The 59 having some problems, catching it, bringing it around, keeping it up to speed, and not bringing out a yellow.
Yeah, that's a very successful spin, that, just for the fact that it hasn't brought out the yellow flag. Wills and Bruno, they have pulled away. I mean, you probably don't win any prizes for guessing this might happen as soon as Redford went further back. But Bruno, has he just been biding his time? Has Wills got his tyres back up to temperature and peak condition? We'll have to wait and see. Only time will tell with 61 laps into this race. Hopefully another 39 will follow, very quick succession, when we can see how Bruno is just exactly how he's feeling about this one. Now, DJ, is he coming offline there out of Will to try and get a little bit of air over his car to grip around the outside? Is he thinking that hunkering up behind during these corners is making the car a little bit too slippy, and that's why we're seeing some snaps of oversteer by some drivers?
Yeah, I think that's certainly what it is. You get caught up in the aero wash behind these big machines. And speaking of slippy, Sean Campbell with the catch of the century. My goodness. And that's going to allow Loris Muller and Isaac Rain on by him. But I am amazed Campbell didn't put that car on the outside wall.
I'm amazed that I chose then to go and take a sip of water and miss it as well. It's I saw the aftermath, which wasn't ideal for Campbell, but it's better than being in the wall, shall we say. The top two pulled away, but this is the battle for 3rd place as well. Can't forget about that. Heatrick, Stam, and Redford. So Heatrick has now gotten ahead of Kevin Stam, and so is Mark Redford, actually. So now there's been a change for 3rd and 4th. Can they work together to catch up to the front two? Well, there's a 2-second gap. The likelihood is they won't, but they're going to give it a good go, and that's what we love them for. Loris Muller, with no front end, is battling with Isaac Rain, and then Stuart Reynolds behind, and Sean Campbell, as you mentioned before, with a huge save, somehow still in the top 10.
Yeah, he is really wheeling that car around. You can see it just wanting to break away from him every time he turns into the corner. He is having to fight that machine at every single corner that he goes through. A very impressive bit of car control here from Sean Campbell. I colored me very impressed with that driver, the 26. As you see up ahead of him, though, Reynolds trying to look to the inside of Muller. Wow!
Loads of just brilliant catches now. I think people are starting to predict them a little bit better than they were before, isn't it? As Muller has to now hunker up behind the likes of Reynolds to try and reset. Campbell on the apron and a huge snap of oversteer. Is he going to catch that one? Yes, he does. Is there any doubt at this point?
I don't know how he's doing this. I have no idea how Sean Campbell is keeping that car pointed the same way. That car should have been in the wall about 18 times at this point, but he's not only doing that, he's closing in on the back of Loris Muller. He's going to try to go for a pass, almost going into the grass as he goes through the quad oval.
I don't know. Oh my days! How is he controlling this car? Why is he still driving? Look at the manic attempt at trying to keep this car in a straight line. Is this on purpose? I can't believe it. The rear tyres are going to explode. I'm not sure which one's going to explode first, actually, DJ. Me, you, or the tyres of the rear end of this car, because it is incredible.
It is. It looks to be the problems coming off of 4, and then in the middle of 2 is when he really seems to be having these problems coming down. Let's watch him here. He's going to try the high side to see if that's got a little bit more grip for him. Watching that left front, you can see it just going back and forth as he tries to keep that car underneath him. Again, a big snap, but he is going full cold trickle and just keeping that throttle pinned all the way around.
I bet he's having fun. It's probably not the most fun, or probably not as fun as winning the race, but I bet he's actually quite enjoying keeping this car in a straight line. He looks like he's having to really drive the nuts off it as he comes really aggressively back across Muller there, and I'm not entirely sure Muller probably appreciated that, but this is fantastic battle, even if it is just two drivers trying to hold their car in a straight line. And look at that, maybe he's watching the stream, DJ, maybe he's just trying to put on a show.
I think at this point, he's just trying to be a little bit of a camera hog and just show off how good he is. That's a little contact with Muller, but they're able to keep going. How are they still driving?
I don't appreciate the fact we're flirting with another caution period. But if this is the reason why the caution period comes out, the next one, the 7th one, then to be honest, I'm here for it. This has been a brilliant couple of minutes watching these two just battle it out, keep it on a straight line, just seeing what the other person can do. Not many people can race this closely with each other when they're actually just fully on point and the car is absolutely mint, let alone when they're basically drifting through the corners together. So it's quite astonishing. So props to these drivers, even though they're not running for the first place. A very good shout for driver of the round right now, in my opinion, Sean Campbell.
Indeed, and I mean, it's every corner, but we're going to break our eyes away from that, if that's even possible, to jump up here for the battle for P3. This is Matthew Hetrick and Mark Redford. Redford having a little bit of a look down to the inside as they come into the quad oval. At number 77 is going to have a little bit more momentum here. He's going to have a nose ahead as they enter into turn 1. Is it going to be momentum, or is it going to be the shortest distance between point A and point B that takes it around? Looks like that's going to be a little bit of door banging here in Charlotte.
See what I mean, though? These guys are so close to each other. Yeah, we saw Sean Campbell and Lawrence Muller do it while they're going sideways as well. This is what we're going to have to focus on for the time being, though. This is brilliant racing by two drivers at the top of their game right now. Hopefully, as well, we can see this going forward through not only the rest of this race, but the rest of the season as well, as they get very close to each other. Redford and Hetrick again, still door banging going around the corner. That is playing a very dangerous game right now. Pretty much everyone on the circuit is. And another hip and shoulder there, DJ. Not messing around. Hetrick wants to keep that position.
Yeah, he certainly does, but he has got a lot of time to try to catch up to Matthew Bruno. As we jump back in the field here, this is Campbell, and coming down to the inside of Sean Campbell right now, I believe that's the 64 of Rich Matthews, who says, I want to be gone of your sliding car. Matthews, wow! Every time we go on board with Campbell, he just does something more and more incredible. But Matthews now able to get on by. That'll put him up into 8th place position. Sean Campbell in 9th. Loris Muller holding around back in 10th.
It's hard to commentate on this, isn't it? Because every time he cuts them, you just sort of want to grimace and have a sharp intake of breath because you swear they're going into the wall. Speaking of, well, going into, not hopefully the wall, but going into each other, this battle for 3rd place, again, lap after lap, whenever we've caught it, is really heating up. And that's not a play on words or a pun for Hetrick either. This is just very much getting feisty, shall we say. But it's brilliantly respectful racing as well, DJ. I had to say it, didn't I? Dave Christie's going mental in my ear because he finds it hilarious that I've given the commentators curse. That's not ideal. Redford gets through. Hetrick gets sent to the back. I can only apologise. That is not ideal.
I don't think I have ever seen a more immediate commentator's curse take place there, Jack. That was just close racing, and there you can see Hetrick just coming across the nose there of Redford, getting spun down to the inside, catching that inside barrier. Now, I'm not sure if Hetrick has been able to take his spare car yet, but what this does mean is what was about a 1.5 second gap between Harry Wills and Matthew Bruno is now going to be minimized once again, and Mark Redford, which was a 3-second gap, that is going to be brought back in again, and we will restart here. Looks like all drivers opting to come down pit lane.
I'm not really sure whether I want to open my mouth again after that one. It's just, as you said, very immediate. But anyway, we move on. Like you said, that massive gap that was built up by Wills and Bruno has all but dissipated pretty much immediately. And there's an opportunity. There was a rumour that we might try and get Harry Wills to do an in-race interview with us when the next caution period. Obviously, we don't want to do that while he's concentrating on a pit stop. So what we'll do is we'll try and let him get out, get back in formation, everything like that, and then maybe we'll we'll try and drag him in. David Christie, our broadcaster, might sort of dump him in here, and all of a sudden he'll start hearing us and he'll know he should be in an interview. But at the moment, he's racing with a few drivers to try and get out ahead of them in this pit window, and a few drivers almost getting the better. That was Isaac Rain almost getting the better of Wills, but it didn't come to pass. Redford had stayed out, I believe, so he's taken the lead of this race after causing this caution period. Harry Wills in second. Isaac Rain, Stuart Reynolds, Kevin Stam have all gotten ahead of Matthew Bruno.
Yeah, indeed. Redford, he actually did come down pit lane there, was about 0.3 of a second faster than Harry Wills, so that is what gave that position to the 77. Wills comes out in second. Rain with a good jump there, as you said. That'll put him into third. Stuart Reynolds there as well. And Harry Wills is in chat. Harry, how is the race going for you with 25 to go?
It's going really well. Got a fantastic setup we've put together, and it's... yeah, it feels really good. It's yeah, it's all right. I've got a bit of mirrors full of Matthew Bruno, but I think we're better than him over a longer run. So this is going to be like a 25-ish lap run. Might have the edge on me in the first 5 or 10, but hopefully after that we'll be able to see what we can do with him.
Well, we've seen here on the restarts, the outside lane, which it looks like you're going to be starting in, being a little bit caught out. Any concerns about that, or are you just going to kind of knuckle down?
I mean, I think it's just because obviously the leader's got the inside line, gets the run, and the way it is on the restart here, you've really got to be on the ball. Got caught out a couple of restarts ago with one of my guys who had a damaged engine that really nearly caused a whole heap of mess, but we'll just see what we can do. It's I've got 4 fresh tyres. I'm good to go to the end on fuel. I've still got my fast repair if I need it. So hopefully we'll see what we can do.
Well, you know, you were talking a little bit about the tires with us in chat last time out. How long has it taken you to get those tires up to a good temperature? Obviously, a little bit cooler track conditions running here on the nighttime.
I'd be honest with you, that's probably the hardest stage, is where in that first couple of 3 laps is really getting the pressures and the temps into the fronts, because all she wants to do is move up the track, and when you've done 20 or 10, 20, 15 lap runs, whatever, on nice sticky tyres, and then you first get onto these into turn 1, it's quite an eye-opener. But on the first 5 or 10 laps, I'm sort of struggling a little bit with a loose car, but then after that, it really comes into its own and feels good. There's like a 5-lap window where it feels fantastic.
Well, looks like those lights on the pace car are out. So, Harry, we'll let you get back to racing. Thanks for joining us here in the booth, and good luck.
Fabulous, guys. Thank you ever so much, and you're doing a great job up there as always. So, thank you very much.
Well, folks, that was Harry Wills, your second place driver, and a little bit what we suspected there, Jack, about those opening laps, getting those tires up to temperature.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do, is it, really? And like Harry said, it's one of probably the hardest, most challenging bits of this race so far for him. But he's done it very well. He thinks he has a good setup to try and take the win here. It's just, what can he do about Redford now? It's not just Matthew Bruno he's got mirrors full of now, is it? It's Isaac Rain, it's Reynolds, it's Stam again, and then obviously Matthew Bruno. So plenty of drivers to be worried about, and obviously he's not got Redford in the mirrors. He's in the mirrors of Redford. What can he do on this restart as the twisted car starts to try and heat those tyres up a little bit more for what hopefully will be the final run of this race? 23 to go.
Indeed, as there you see Harry warming up those tires deliberately, trying to stay back a little bit from Redford to be able to get that jump as they enter into the restart zone. There goes Redford, and there goes Wills. Isaac Rain going to fall in line behind. A little bit of close running there between Reynolds and Stam. Stam down to the inside, trying to hold that out to the best as he can. But Mark Redford right now up in the lead of the race, starting to break away with Harry Wills and Isaac Rain for the top 3. Wow, there's a big around there for Kevin Stam. Is he able to catch it? Stays down on the apron. Green flag still in the air.
Oh, thank goodness as well, especially for Harry Wills' perspective. He's got Rain, he's got Redford, Reynolds, and Campbell in between himself and Matthew Bruno, who hasn't been able to get an advantage of that restart, but Wills has absolutely flown away with this. Let's see if we can find a replay at some point, but right now we need to keep an eye on Redford being overtaken, potentially by a drifting Reynolds around the outside. Not going to happen, but it's another drifting Sean Campbell is on the inside. This is just going to be a nightmare for anybody else to try and get cut through, because these drivers are pretty much sideways constantly. That's Loris Muller separating now into with the orange 68 car into 6th position. Now, I think the front end of Muller's car looks a little bit better than it used to. Has he had any repairs stuck on his car? Might mean he's a little bit quicker than those around him.
It may indeed. He may have been able to get a new clip on there to help that out as we ride on the nose here of Sean Campbell as he continues to work that car around. Let's see if he has another signature slide coming off of the corner.
Oh.
Looks like he actually keeps it relatively well.
Yeah, I think there was a driver heat trick potentially off in the background, and that is the 8th caution period, unfortunately. I think hopefully we'll let you know sooner rather than later. No, I think the stream is potentially down.
Looks like we may have some pictures coming back, so we are figuring out those technical difficulties there. Thank you for bearing with all of this together. Just hearing some problems there from David Christie, but I think we are back and live. We may be doing just a little bit of radio here for you folks, but we can certainly do that as we work on lap 83 right now of this race. Under yellow, once again, Harry Wills continues to lead. Isaac Rain, Mark Redford, Matthew Bruno, and Stuart Reynolds, your top 5. We should have a good run to the finish here. We've seen some very, very close racing, some very loose racing, but some fantastic racing nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, the loose racing is giving us something to watch even when the sort of main event at the front end of the field hasn't necessarily been as close as we'd hope it would be. It means that we can always just reliably go to the likes of Sean Campbell, Loris Muller, and a few other cars to get that sort of excitement level back up. And to be honest, it's almost been like watching some exhibitions out there. The sort of support races that you might get around the actual main event of a NASCAR or a main series. It's been brilliant to watch and almost stunt driving at times. But we're here for it. We love it, and that's what we've come to see.
Indeed, it is what we come here to see as we look ahead to the lights on that iRacing pace car. And it looks like they are still on, so we will get restarted here on lap 86. We are currently working on our 8th caution of the day, so should be 15 laps to go. Everyone continuing to go. Wills continues to be the one that I think has the pace here. He just looks very dominant. We talked to him earlier on in the race. That car looks planted. It looks like, as opposed to so many other cars that we've seen out there on the track, that it's just not moving around, that he's able to put it where he wants to be, and that it's able to go where he wants it to go.
Yeah, he's as you said, I think we had a chat to him, didn't we? It was the fact that he's just got the perfect car set up for it, comfortable in the car, and that's essential, really, to any of these drivers. All about car setup, and in fact, I'm actually getting some live pictures now. It's not necessarily coming through on everybody else's screen, but what I can tell you is Harry Wills, the pace car has still got its lights on, so don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we're still just about in pace car. We're not missing any big incidents or anything like that just yet, or any sort of real lapping. They're just about to line up 2 by 2, where I just see Isaac Crane coming to the side. What I will say, this could be important, is that Harry Wills' car and Isaac Rain's, Wills looks pretty clean, actually. I thought there was going to be a bit of a damage on it, but Isaac Rains looks very damaged on the right-hand side. Everybody else's looks pristine condition, DJ. So we could see the likes of Rain just drop off completely, and all of a sudden we've got a 3-way fight. I think Redford's got good pace here. He just hasn't really been able to show it consistently because sort of little incidents and little mistakes keep creeping in.
Yeah, exactly. And running a race like this, it is very, very tricky to be able to get to have that perfect race. 100 lap like this, very difficult. Is there? We've got pictures back up and live right before we go green. It's a Christmas miracle, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, thank goodness. I thought we were going to have to do radio commentary for the next, obviously, foreseeable future, 20 laps or however long we've got going. But with the pace car lights out, we have pictures back again. Dave Christie is back with us, ladies and gentlemen, back from the dead. DJ, we can start racing for what hopefully will be the final time tonight.
Indeed we can, as that number 95 of Harry Wills brings the field to the restart zone here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, waiting for the green flag to fly. 15 laps to go at the line, and there he goes. We're racing again. That is a good start for Wills. I had behind him Isaac Rain actually able to pull up aside him. Everybody slotting themselves in line. It's Wills, Rain, Redford, Bruno, Muller continuing to hold on there. A lap car coming out of pit lane there down to the low to the inside as everybody sorts themselves out onto the backstretch.
Yeah, and Wills with a very, very good restart, has to be said. He hasn't had quite the jump that the likes of Bruno, and in fact Wills has enjoyed previously. But look at Bruno trying to push around the outside. It gives the rest of the field just a whiff of opportunity here for the 14 to go. Just an idea that there might be an opportunity for a race victory here if Wills just gets held up a bit. But Bruno is very much being held up, and Redford's gone into the side of him. Redford has hit Bruno and hit into the wall as well, and they're going to make contact again twice in the course of about half a straight. We're into the 10th caution period as all eyes roll, I guess. Luckily, no cars rolled as well, but that is a big shame for two of the protagonists we've been talking about for so long, DJ, in this race. Matthew Bruno and, oh my God, the other one's got out of my head. Matthew Bruno and Redford.
Yeah, indeed, and that's going to really change things up here in the standings of this race. Wills continues to lead, but with Bruno and all of them being first down the order, it's going to have to be a contest of who has the least damage. Woo! Almost a little bit of a check up there between Wills and Rain as they come up behind the pace car.
Yeah, you got to wonder what they were looking at because the pace car was pretty obvious there. Luckily, Wills is able to morph through it. Rain, though, again, almost like a lapse of concentration. And this is not where you want to be picking up damage. There's absolutely no excuse for picking up damage under a pace car. We'll see if we can get those replays to you sooner rather than later. I don't think we will be able to, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, that was a big incident, wasn't it? And between two drivers, as Bruno is in the pit lane, Matthew Bruno is in the pit lane, and so is Sean Campbell, for what I assume would be fitting his 7th set of tyres, by the way, as he's been treating them. But I have no idea, obviously. Bruno is coming into the pits. We'll let you know when he's coming out, but it will be towards the back end of the lead lap, which, to be fair, actually, is only about the top 8 drivers anyway.
Indeed, and so we'll have to see how that shakes out. I believe when we get going under green here, we should have about probably about 10 laps left to go, and so that's really going to set this up to be an absolute shootout to the finish.
It is indeed. So, yeah, as we said, we wanted the last one to be it there, done and dusted. Yeah, let's get to the line sort of thing, but I think Harry Wills will be probably looking at the order now and thinking, actually, that's worked out pretty well for me. Yes, I got a half-decent restart. It wasn't the best of the night. But the two biggest rivals, or his biggest rivals, sorry, Redford and Bruno, now being absolutely nowhere near him, he's probably quietly confident that his job has just got a little easier. I'm sure if we interviewed him again, he wouldn't say that, but the fact that Rain hasn't really had the pace, Muller hasn't had the pace, Heatrick, Reynolds, Matthews, and none of these drivers we've been talking about right at the front end of the field so far, whereas Wills has obviously led a lot of this race. You have to say he's probably the bookies' favourites to probably take this victory, but you never know. Rain could have a fantastic restart, and we could see a complete change of order come the last 5 laps.
Yeah, we certainly could. There is plenty of unknowns here still to be had in this race. It's some of the beauty of oval racing as drivers here exiting out of the quad oval, coming into turn 1 right now. We'll have 2 more laps of caution. So I believe we will get restarted here with 9 laps to go.
9 laps indeed. Yeah, 9 laps. Very excited about. Thank you again to everybody who's been jumping in the YouTube chat. I've heard whilst we were trying to diagnose and troubleshoot the little tech issues that we had, that Harry Wills was saying that he's never won a race, so he didn't want the broadcast to go down because, well, 1, he's winning, and he wants proof of it, and 2, apparently his mum is watching. So he wants his mum to see him win a race as well. So hopefully Harry Wills, Mrs. Wills, I guess, is watching. And if you want Mrs. Wills, you can give a shout out to Harry on the YouTube chat. If you don't want to, we're going to give you a shout out anyway, because props up to the family members who are staying up this late to watch, because of course Harry is in England, I believe. So it is getting quite late over here. It's 20 past 11 at night.
Well, over on stateside on the West Coast, it is coming on to about 3:30 p.m., so it's not too bad over here. And I could keep going like this for hours, but these drivers want this race to get over because they want to race to that checkered flag. There you can see Harry Wills getting those tires up to speed. Remember, that was something that we talked about with him. Those first couple of laps, a little bit sketchy. This is another driver to keep your eyes out on. Matthew Bruno, caught out in that last incident. The last car on the lead lap, but that car number 24 has a lot of speed underneath it, and there's a lot of damaged cars up ahead of him.
There's not a lot of time left on the clock, though, is there? Or laps, even, I should probably say. But you're absolutely right. Plenty of potential opportunity. What he doesn't want to happen now is there to be a pilot, because he's right in the middle of the pack. And if there's a little bit of contact further up, maybe within the top, maybe 6th to 3rd positions, he's going to be charging right through the middle of it. He's probably going to get collected, which is pretty much goodbye to any chance that he has of taking this race victory. What he needs to do now is just keep calm, relax, be ultra aware. It's not necessarily about taking the best lines or choosing the best overtakes. It's literally just being ultra aware of what's around you and having your eyes on stalks left, right, and centre, trying to read what every single car is about to do in front of you. So fingers crossed, this is it. With 10 laps to go, or what will be 9 laps to go of this race, the 10th caution period is about to come to an end. The lights are off on the pace car. Harry Wills is leading the way and will restart us for what I believe is the 5th time tonight, with Isaac Rain alongside, Loris Muller behind, and Matthew Heatrick rounding out the top 4. And as Wills pulls them over to the line, the pace cars come back in. And as we cross the line, boogity, 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 let's go racing as Wills charges away from the rest of them.
He certainly does, and charging down to the inside is Loris Muller, trying to get that position away from Isaac Rain. Little bit of side-by-side there as they continue through the corner. Rain's going to carry that momentum on the high side, seeing if Loris is going to be able to carry anything out in that very, very damaged number 68 machine. They're going to continue to go side-by-side, but up front, Harry Wills continues to streak away from this race. It looks like Rain's got the outside line, crossing down in front, now able to get the crossover, and they run 1, 2, 3, a little bit more side by side there in the back. That's Sean Campbell running right alongside Rich Matthews.
Yeah, and if Rich Matthews has been keeping an eye on Sean Campbell's car, he'll know that this is a potentially dangerous place to be on the outside of Campbell, hometown of Ashborough. But fingers crossed, with those new tyres on the back of Campbell's car, he'll be a little bit more safe as he runs into the final couple of laps. Bruno hasn't made anywhere near the impact that we were probably expecting him. He's only made it 1 position, up from 8th into 7th position. He's got Campbell up ahead of him, who we've seen how potentially slow Campbell's been today. It might be easy pickings, but what might not be too easy is getting round him and then catching up the next pack. Bruno up to 6th already, getting past on Matthews. With Campbell just ahead of him, he needs to get a move on, but if he's going to be able to catch even a podium position in the end of this race.
Indeed, we'll have to see how it is as we focus in on the battle for those podium positions. Right now, Isaac Rain continuing to lead from Loris Muller. Right now, Muller trying to close in with that damaged number 68, but Rain holding on to that position as we cross over the line with 6 laps to go. And Harry Wills continuing to lead, stretching that gap to about 0.8 of a second.
I love the fact, and I've only just realised, Isaac Rain's picture, I believe, when we brought him his graphic at the bottom, was him sat inside a Ginetta, and I'd love to know which Ginetta it is, because I used to race them. I think that looks like a Ginetta Junior, actually. He does look rather young as Isaac Rain. But anyway, that's another little nerdy fact that I was just quite enjoying. It looks like the real-life racer is doing quite a handy job here at maintaining it into a podium position. This, a little bit further back, is Kevin Stam, who quite consistently ran in the top 3 in the early parts of this race. Didn't ever look like he was going to challenge for the lead, and that's become apparent because he's down towards the back end of the top 10. Matthew Bruno has gotten himself into 4th position. Now has Loris Muller to pick off if he wants to catch a podium position. I said it's going to be hard for him to catch a podium because the top 4 were pulling away slightly, but Bruno, he's pushing out the pace that he was showing earlier on, and is starting to get into a position where he's maybe in that contention.
Yeah, maybe in that contention, indeed. We ride on board with Stuart Reynolds right now, trying to close down on Kevin Stam, who, remember, started third place in this race, but Stam able to hold ahead. Meanwhile, up at the front there, that is Matthew Bruno making the move on Loris Muller as they go through 3 and 4. That is a podium position for the number 24. He's now got Isaac Rain surely in his sights as they cross over the line to take 3 to go.
Yeah, Loris Muller and the rest of that pack, actually, all had heavy damage, which you noticed, obviously, earlier on, didn't you, DJ? And maybe we thought it wouldn't play as big of impact on their race pace, but it clearly is, because Bruno has breezed past them like they're not even stood there. Oh, there's a big spin in the background, and that is Matthew Heatrick. Oh, Heatrick's been involved with a few of them, but by the looks of it, it was a solo incident, so hopefully that won't bring out the caution period as he gets back going again. But look at the gap that Harry Wills has got. There might be a change for second place in the next half a lap. There we go. Might not even be that. Might even be half a corner. And in fact, it was. Matthew Bruno into second.
Matthew Bruno able to move his way up into that second place position ahead of Isaac Rain. Really a lap and a half here to go at Charlotte as Harry Wills comes through 3 and 4 for the penultimate time. They're going to bring the cars around Isaac Rain, trying to close down on that very fast moving Matthew Bruno, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. White flag in the air for Harry Wills as he brings it around now. Coming through 1 and 2, he's got a 2.1 second advantage behind them. That is Sean Campbell still miraculously holding on to that car, able to get around Muller. There's a little bit of a sideways car there in the back as it goes through 1 and 2. But up front, we have got to be talking about Harry Wills because he comes out of turn 4 for the final time, brings that car around, weaving it this way and that in excitement. Harry Wills takes victory here at Charlotte. Matthew Bruno with an inspired drive to bring his car back up into P2, and Isaac Rain up 10 positions on the day will round out your podium.
I think if we use the word dominant, I think Matthew Bruno might have something to say about it. But in the second half of that race, Harry Wills was dominant, wasn't he? Matthew Bruno did end up with second place, which arguably he deserved to be in the top 2. They probably deserved, either one of them deserved to be on the top step, to be honest. With Isaac Rain, who came out in third, like you mentioned. Sean Campbell somehow drifted his way into fourth in that race. Loris Muller also followed him with no front end for, I would say, a good 75% of that race, in fifth with Stuart Reynolds in sixth. And I'll round out the top 10 because why the hell not? Rich Matthews was seventh with Kevin Stam 8th, ninth with George Hill, and Jonathan Havey the top 10. And if you want to catch the rest of the order, I was about to say you'll have to wait for a couple of minutes, but in fact, Dave Christie's beaten me to it already. So I've rounded out the top 10 already. Why not keep going? Matthew Heatrick rounded out the lap leading car, shall we say. 19 seconds back in 11th position. Gerard Wareham was the first driver not on the lead lap. 2 laps down in 12th. Brody Maynard was 5 laps down in 13th. Daniel Valk was 6 laps down in 14th. Cesar Fitzpatrick was 15th and 7 laps down. With Mark Redford in the end, 11 laps down and in 16th position. I assume that meant a retirement, really, after Redford had that off to cause the final caution. Dion Neuveld, who looked like he was going very slowly at one point, to be fair, is 17 laps down in 17th, which is, again, good for OCD. Brandon Hughes in 18th and 50 laps down. Ben Smith in 19th and 54 laps down. And Jeff Browning and Mark Cadmore also on 50-plus laps down. Albin Kjellberg ended up retiring 72 laps away from the checkered, with Dean Timms in 23rd, Marcellus Bruning, and Judith Cooper didn't even take the green flag. So, loads of stories there, DJ. Very tense towards the end as well. The pace car played its part, but in the end, ultimately, Harry Wills was the driver who came away with the top step, and I don't think anybody could begrudge him.
No, not at all. Harry was in this race from the very beginning, that 95, always looking very, very quick. And as we wait here a second for drivers to show up for those podium interviews, this was a little bit of a caution-filled race. It was a little bit tight. It was a little bit crazy. But I've got to say, we head to Richmond next. That is a short track. That is more bread and butter for these NASCARs. It's going to be very, very tricky to try to get these cars set up for that track. I anticipate another grueling race for these these guys. Let's see if we can get any of our drivers up in here. Just still waiting, Jack. And I got to tell you, I'm very much looking forward to Richmond.
So am I. Yeah, I think although today was a little bit painful stop-start, it ended up being, we got there, basically. It's what I'm trying to say, isn't it? The second half of the race was much better. We got a good, I'd say, probably 20-lap stint where we got some good, clean race pace, and we saw some fantastic driving as soon as we did get that green period as well. Fingers crossed next week is going to be very similar in terms of extended runs in green flag territory. But I believe, DJ, we've got our race winner for you to have a chat to.
We do indeed, Harry. You're able to walk away with the win. I mean, that looked relatively cool, calm, cool, and collected for you there pretty much up front the entire way. Harry, you got a copy?
Oh, hello, I have, yes.
There you go. I was going to say, it looked like you had that race pretty much locked down from the beginning. You were calm, cool, and collected it up at the front the entire time.
Yeah, that was a really good one, and we worked on setup all last night and just got it all, everything going well. The car felt great. It was really good on tires. It didn't cook itself out. It was just a perfect car to have, really. And I've got a lot of good people around who help with the setup, and yeah, just chuffed to bits. I never get to win my own races, really. I'll put all these stuff on and then end up, poking out of a barrier somewhere. So it's really good fun to actually know what it's like to win one.
It is indeed. And I mean, we saw a lot of drivers there struggling with what looked like a lot of a slippery car. Did you have any of that going on, or was the setup just that good for you here today?
No, it kind of went in different phases, as it does in different tracks and things, but it was, I'd say, more along the lines of first couple of laps was unbelievable push where you're getting the temps and the pressures up in the fronts. It would bottom out, it would shift up the track, and then you'd have sort of like a 5 or 10 lap run where it was a little bit skittish, a little bit loose. The problem with this next gen car I've found is that you can't really slide it. It's not slidable. It's very snappy. So as soon as it breaks, it would nosedive right, and it would absolutely ruin your afternoon. And then there was that little sweet spot where the tires, where everything was just good, and then towards the end of the run, she started to tighten up, but. On the whole, great car. Really enjoyed the race. I know a lot of people suffered with it. We did change track conditions for this race. Obviously, we were going to have it during the day, hot and sticky. Thought it would be a better shout to try and cool it down, give drivers a chance to have a good, good few laps and stuff like that. A few too many cautions, and I'd like, but it's these cars have never been here. A lot of people inexperienced with this car, this track combination, so it's to be expected, really.
Well, looking ahead to next week, we head to Richmond, a little bit of a different circuit there. How do you think that's going to fare out for you guys?
It's a completely different ball game. Really is a completely different track, completely different, style of racing. To be brutally honest with you, I've got absolutely no idea. It'll be what it'll be. We'll have a good time. Hopefully everyone, race is fair, race is clean. I expect a few more bumpers and doors and things like that to be thrown around, as you do with a track like that. But we'll see what it brings. And it's going really well so far. I've got to say a massive thank you to obviously you guys for putting the show on. A massive thank you to obviously every one of the drivers that turns up to come and participate in it. We're obviously more renowned for running circuit racing stuff. This is our first venture into NASCAR, but I used to race on short ovals in the UK. It's been a real passion of mine since I was a kid. So to actually have a fully functioning NASCAR series has really been an ambition since I got into sim racing. So I'm chuffed to bits.
Well, there you go. You kind of stole the words out of my mouth, but any other final shout outs you want to give for the win here today?
Just my guys at Twisted, who I run Twisted Racing Team, and obviously there's a few of us in the US and the EU series. They a fantastic bunch of guys. I can't thank them enough for racing with us and sticking with the team, as well as my fellow admins of Matt and Dean, and also all the sponsors that we have who sort of make the series happen. Offer prizes and things like that. And Kelvin at SIM3D, fantastic lineup of products that he has over there, as well as Martin at Race Anywhere. And we've just took on a new sponsor of IMB Racewear as well for our GT3 season that's coming up. So just everyone that is attributed to the series, that helps it happen, all the drivers that turn up, and also you guys for putting on the show.
Well, I know when you guys put on a race like that, we are more than happy to do it. Thank you so much, Harry, and congratulations again on the win here today.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Well, that was Harry Wills, your race winner. And there you can see the updated points standing. Sean Campbell, with that very squirrely car, continues to hold on to the lead, but only 4 points ahead of Harry Wills. A very, very close battle at the top. Brody Bernard, Matthew Bruno, Loris Muller, Kevin Stam, and Saoirse Fitzpatrick, with Jonathan Havey only a point back, Isaac Rain only a point back, and Matthew Heatrick there as well, rounding out your top 10. It is still a long season. There is plenty to still be fought for. As we said, we will be back at the same time next week for that race at Richmond. My name is DJ Clark, and on behalf of all of our participation team here today, Jack Oliphant and David Christie, we would like to thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. And, well, until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.